Hello there guys, and welcome back to Let's Learn Civilization. I'm going to go straight on with the next turn and get that out of the way before we do anything else. There's a couple of things that I'd like to talk about during this video. Germany are happy that we've become friendly with Brazil. That's absolutely fine. So Germany and Brazil are now friends. And they're just telling us the same thing, which we already knew. All good stuff. The Zulus are the ones we have to watch out for. They're playing aggressive on this game. And city-states, then it should be barbarians. And back to my turn. So. And, oh, navigation. We're still having stuff stolen from Edinburgh. We're not doing too well here at stopping tech from being stolen. Which is surprising, considering our agent is the second rank. There are 3 ranks of spy. Recruit agents and special agents, and as they rank up they become sort of better at doing their job. Unfortunately, Fion doesn't appear to be all that good. The first Berlin conference is now in session, and we only have 1 delegate. So do we enact a standing army tax, or do we enact arts funding? Well, the Germans are going to vote for arts funding because that's you know, they have 2 delegates. I very much doubt standing army tax is going to work. Let's try it anyway, see what happens, because I don't really care either way on the arts funding, to be honest. If you mouse over, though, it will tell you from information you know from your allies and spies what the likelihood is of other civilizations voting for them. So you never really know, but we'll see what happens. When you've got a limited number of spies, it's always difficult to tell. And let's just get Cardiff doing what Cardiff needs to do, which is probably going to be a public school, because we are heading towards science. So there are 2 things I wanted to mention in this video. 3 things, actually. First of all, I've got a little bit of a cold, so sorry if I sound a bit sniffly and nasally. Many apologies, but I am getting these videos recorded nonetheless. So, the second thing is... Firstly, I want to... The second thing is firstly? That's not right. Anyway, the second thing is I want to keep these videos a bit shorter than usual. Normally, as you guys know, I've been doing these videos around about sort of 40 minutes and onwards, which is a little bit long. I don't want to have these videos going that long. And that's because I know a lot of you don't always have that much time to sit down and watch a 40 or 50 minute video. At the same time, I do put 4 of them out a week, so you know it's not like you're only going to get a 30-minute video a week. If I do it as a 30-minute video, you're still going to get 2 hours worth a week. Mainly the problem is I just find this game so addictive. It's always a case of I'll just play one more turn. I'll just play one more turn, and I sit here with a you know, a stopwatch at the side of me. Yeah, standing army tax fails. I thought it would. And Shaka launched a sneak attack on another civ, but we don't know who. My spies are really, really useless in this game. So yeah, you just constantly want to play another turn, and oh, we found barbarians. Any of you that play this game will know what it's like, that you always just want to have one more turn. So much so that even when you win this game or lose, when the game comes to an end, providing you haven't had your civilization completely destroyed, you even get the option of returning to the main menu, or there's a button that says go on then, just one more turn, and you can carry on playing the game even after it's been won. Obviously you can't win the game once it's been won by somebody else, but let's go for industrialization, then we can get factories which will help with production. So, yeah, it's a very addictive game. As I've just said, I put out 4 of these in a week. 40 minutes plus in a lot of cases. And sometimes I do all 4 of the videos back to back, so I can literally just play this game for hours. Bear in mind I also play a couple of other games of this as well. This is not the only sort of game that I'm playing at the moment. So I'm going to try and keep the videos a little bit shorter, but I will be keeping up the 4 videos a week, at least until this particular playthrough has been resolved. The second thing is a correction that I want to make with victory conditions, with win conditions. Alexander's got a lot of money there. I've been spending mine, though. And the victory condition this applies to is the domination victory, where you have to capture your opponent's capital. Now, in Vanilla Civ 5 and in Gods and Kings, in order to get a domination victory, all you have to do is be the last civilization to control your original capital. Now, this could lead to some cheap wins. Let's say, for example, you had 8 civilizations, which, well, we did have until India fell. Actually, here's a better way of looking at it. Let's go and look at the victory progress. So here's all the civilizations. So the Zulus already have India and Brazil's original capital. Now let's say that the Zulus also capture Greece, Egypt, Germany and America's capital. So the Zulus have done all the work and captured 6 other capitals. All I would then have to do is capture the Zulus' capital, and I would be the only player left with my original capital, and I would win. So you don't have to do an awful lot of work. There are also other ways of getting a cheap win. Imagine a game where there are only 3 civilizations, and let's call them civilizations A, B, and C. Civilization B captures the capital city of civilization C. Then civilization C captures the capital of civilization B. Civilization A wins, because they're the only player left that controls their original capital. You could have a civilization that wasn't involved in the fighting at all, could have been on an island miles away from anybody else, who wins the game because the only other 2 civs capture each other's capitals. So that has now been changed. In Brave New World, in order to win a domination victory, you have to be in control of everyone else's original capital, which does make that victory condition a lot more difficult, but at the same time it kind of reduces cheesy wins. The reason I was unaware of this, the reason I got it wrong, and I'll be quite honest with you, is I couldn't find it documented anywhere. I even went back through. I only found out a couple of days ago because I was playing another game and I was just kind of experimenting and trying things out. And it didn't work the way it was supposed to. And I even went through the original manual. I went through the Gods and Kings manual. I went through the Brave New World manual, as excuse for a manual that it is. I even went through the Civlopedia. And nothing actually mentioned that the victory condition had changed in the expansion. In fact, I had to go to the Civilization forums to actually sort of find out. Other people had asked the question and people had mentioned, yes, it has changed. It changed in Brave New World. But they never actually updated the manual or the Civlopedia to reflect that. So, a little bit naughty of them. So that's the stuff I wanted to talk about out of the way. We're going to continue to grow our cities. So the cities that are smaller, we will concentrate on things that give them food. And the cities that are larger, we will concentrate on trying to get some more science production out of them. Of course, we're also going to go for gold where we have the option, because gold's always useful. There is a big possibility that we could be attacked by the Zulus. They could come across the water and attack from the west. So I'm going to get some defensive buildings built here at Truro. We'll put walls up, we'll get a castle, and hopefully increase its defense rating so it may survive a little bit more if it does get attacked. And what are we going to have here? We're not too bad on happiness at the moment, although it's always worth having more. But we'll go for the library. We're going to take everything we can to get science up. We have a caravan here. And where was that going previously? It was going to Florence for 8 gold. We may as well carry on with that, because that's where we're going to get the most gold from. Now, one of my viewers did notice something, and I apologise because I don't have your name written down in front of me and I can't remember offhand, but I did toy with the idea of putting another city up here, and I probably will. And I was trying to work out what sort of hex to put it on. And this particular viewer suggested, why don't I actually put the city down here on the tile with the horses on? And I never normally put cities on a tile with resources. And the reason for that is, I've always never really known what will happen with a resource if you build a city on it. And again, that's something I had to look up. Apparently, if you build a city on a tile with a resource, providing you have the appropriate tech to get that resource, obviously we have animal husbandry, so we can utilise horse resources. If you build a city on a tile with a resource, you will automatically get that resource without having to upgrade the tile. Now, I always thought, and I just assumed, but incorrectly, that if you built a city on a resource tile, that resource was lost or destroyed. So now that I've gone and found that out, that is the best tile to put it on. It gives me a coastal city. It also gives me a shortcut through this bit of land here. I was originally going to put it on the hill, because the hill has a bit better defence, but the ability to support it from this side as well, because I could build boats from Truro, and we could actually cut them straight through in this direction. So we will be putting another city there. That's probably the last city I'm going to build, because I don't want to stretch the empire too far. The more cities you have, the more culture it costs to adopt new social policies. It also means you're likely to get more unhappiness. And not only that, when you come to build national wonders that require you to have a particular building in every city, it becomes problematic because you've got to build more buildings. Now, one of the things I do want to try and do is have a word with Germany. He is friendly. And what I want to do is I want to offer a defensive pact. Now, a defensive pact always works both ways. If you click it, it pops up on both sides. And he's accepted. So, what is a defensive pact? Well, basically, what this means is, if somebody attacks or declares war on Germany, they automatically attack or declare war on me. And if somebody declares war on me, they automatically declare war on Germany. So if you're in a defensive pact with another civilization, if somebody goes to war with one of you, they go to war with both of you. This is an excellent way to try and stop other people from declaring war. So if Shaka of the Zulu decides to declare war on me, he's also going to automatically go to war with Germany. And vice versa. Now, if I was to go to war with somebody else, if I attack somebody, or if Germany attacks somebody, the defensive pact automatically gets broken. So anybody in a defensive pact who attacks automatically breaks the pact anyway. We're only neutral with Alexander, which is a bit of a pain, because he would have been a good person to have a defensive pact with. I'm going to offer it anyway. He's probably going to say no because he's not friendly. Yeah, not acceptable. I figured as much. We are still friendly with Egypt, so let's try it with them. And he agrees. So we now have defensive pacts with Germany and with Egypt. Not sure what Washington's... Yeah, he's still neutral with us, but the good thing is we now have a defensive pact with both Germany and Egypt. So if Zulus want to attack us, they're also declaring war on Germany and Egypt as well. So hopefully that will stop any declarations of war they may think about trying. Trying to decide what I want to do with these archers at the moment, these crossbowmen. Haven't really got a lot of use for them, so I'm going to move them down here back near Chicago. I still have a feeling that we may take this city at some point. Now, one of the reasons why I wanted to take this city, apart from the fact that it was just cheeky building it where they have, is I wanted to demonstrate to you guys the options you have when you capture a city. And most of these options apply to capturing a city from another civilization, or capturing a city from a city-state. And normally you will have 3 options, though sometimes you have 4. And sometimes you only have 2. Just go to Dublin and we will go for... Let's get the constabularies, because constabularies and police stations built will allow us to get... There's another building we can get later on if we've got one in every city, and I can't remember what it is. So, when you attack and capture a city that belongs to somebody else, you normally get 3 options. Those options are to annex the city, to make the city a puppet, or to raise the city. Now, if you annex the city becomes yours. All of its borders become yours, and all of the tiles and resources within those borders become yours. An annexed city works just like any one of your normal cities. It's part of your empire. You can build buildings, train units there. You can do anything with an annexed city that you could do with one of your own cities that you founded. Now, when you first capture the city, it will be in a state of revolt for a number of turns, depending on the difficulty level. It's normally around 3 or 4 turns, but it depends on the difficulty. While the city's in a state of revolt, it won't do anything. It won't grow, it won't build, you can't buy units there. It's absolutely useless for those turns. Also, there is a major amount of unhappiness. Once that period of revolt is over, there's still a lot of unhappiness, but the city will be productive.
Is the following trade of interest to you?
Will he give us some money for it? Yes, he will. So, an annexed city is good. It does cause unhappiness. The first thing you should always build in an annexed... It's difficult to say. The first thing you should always build in an annexed city is a courthouse, because the courthouse will drastically reduce the unhappiness that is in that city. You do get unhappiness from having occupied cities, and that happiness will go down over a period of time. So annexing cities is good because they add to your empire, you get all of their tiles, but remember, you have the same problem building national wonders. The more cities you have, the more buildings you're going to have to build in order to get those national wonders. And also, again, the more culture it's going to cost you to unlock social policies. The second option is to make the city a puppet. If you make the city a puppet, you still gain all of its borders, you still gain all of the land and resources within its borders, but you have no direct control over the city. You don't have any control over what buildings it builds. You can't build units there. You can't buy units there. You can still garrison units in the city to make the city stronger. You can still use the city's fire ability to fire on enemies. And you do get a portion of the science output from that particular city. Now that's good because it's a good way to claim some extra land. You don't get quite as much unhappiness for having the puppeted city. But the downside is you don't have any direct control over it. Now, Sheka is building up an army for a sneak attack on another civilization, but we don't know who that is. So that's what happens if you puppet a city. Now, one notable exception to that is if you are playing as Venice, which is only available in Brave New World. The way that Venice works is Venice only have one city. They can't build settlers. And if they capture a city, they don't have the option to annex it. All they can do is make it a puppet city. They do have an extra little mechanic which uses them to build Venetian merchants and allows them to actually buy city-states. But all extra cities captured by the Venetians basically become a puppet city. The difference is the Venetians can actually buy units at puppet cities. That's an extra thing they can do that no one else can. So those are the main two options. If you puppet a city, you have the option later on to convert it to an annexed city. So that's always going to be an option. If you annex a city, you don't have the option to put it back to a puppet city, though. So consider which order you're going to do things in. Another option you might have is to raise the city. Now, some cities can't be raised. Capital cities can't be raised. Well, original capitals can't be raised. Obviously, if someone's capital is captured, then another city becomes their capital. But you can't raise original capitals, and you can't raise city-states. Raising a city basically burns it to the ground, and the number of turns it takes depends on the number of population it has. So, a city with a population of 21 people is going to take about 21 turns to raise, because they lose one population per turn. Normally, again, depends on the difficulty level. Now, once you start raising a city, you can actually stop at any time. So what you may want to do, if you capture a big city, you may want to raise it for a few turns first, then stop raising it, and then annex it. Because by reducing the population of the city, you'll reduce the amount of unhappiness that you get when you take the city over, because there's less population in the occupied city. Now, you do get a lot of unhappiness when you start to raise a city, because obviously you're burning the city down with all of the people that are inside it. But that unhappiness will go away quite quickly. So let's now go for military science, and then we can get... actually, is it worth going for that? Yeah, we've got to get pretty much everything done anyway, so let's go for military science. So that's what raising a city does. Of course, if you raise a city all the way down to 0, the city gets completely destroyed, it is there no longer, it is absolutely and completely gone. Now, you may get a 4th option, which will be to liberate the city. Let's upgrade my crossbowmen to Gatling guns. Now, you will only get the option to... you'll only get the option to liberate a city if it was a city-state that had been captured, or if it was a city that belonged to another civilization. If you liberate a city, you automatically return control of it back to its original owner, even if they have been removed from the game. So, obviously city-states are all individual, because they only have one city. So if Florence got captured, let's say the Americans captured Florence, Florence would belong to America, and Florence would be gone. If I was to then recapture Florence and liberate it, it would go back to being the Florence city-state. Now, there's a good reason for doing this if there is another civilization going around capturing city-states on the board. If a city-state has been captured and liberated, they will always vote for you in the World Congress, in the United Nations, sorry. So, in the United Nations, for every allied city-state you have an extra vote. But if you liberate a city-state from another civilization, you will always have their vote, even if they're not your allies. Even if you go to war with them, you will still have their vote if you liberated them. If they get captured again, and somebody else liberates them, they will vote for whoever liberated them last. But essentially, liberating a city-state is a guaranteed way to get it to vote for you. Used to be the same with civilizations, but that has changed in Brave New World. But one thing like here, Delhi, which is the last remaining city of India. Now you can see here it's got a little sort of 2 wooden sticks and with strings hanging from it, and that tells us that it's a puppet state. So the Zulus have taken this over, but it's still a puppet state. They're not actually... producing anything meaningful there. What I could do, if I wanted, is attack this city and capture it and liberate it. Now, if I liberate this city, it brings the Indians back into the game, because even though the Indians have currently been wiped out, by liberating their city and returning it to them, puts them back into the game. Not the easiest place for me to get to, because it's sort of right in the middle of the map, and I'm going to have to either traipse all the way through here, or come in from the other side and go through the Zulus stuff. I see they've also captured Salvador now as well. So as you can see, that little red fist shows that the city is in resistance. And while the city is in resistance, the city cannot do anything useful. And that is for 4 turns. You can also see that they are raising it, they're burning it. Will be raised to the ground in 4 turns, has a population of 4, so in 4 turns that city will be gone. So the Zulus are playing very, very aggressively here. Let's continue building up in Glasgow. We're going to adopt a policy. We are now going to go into... I do want to go into rationalism, because I want to start getting the bonuses from science. But at the same time, I do want to finish the Liberty Tree, because this is very good. First of all, this will give me an extra settler for free, which I can go and use to build that city up the top. And also, when I get representation, this means that the amount of culture I need per extra city reduces by 33%. And it starts a golden age. And we also get a free great person of our choice in the capital when we completely fill the tree, and we can have a great scientist for that. So we're going to go for those. And then once we've got representation, then we'll start going down the rationalism route. Unit needs orders. These guys are just going to stay there now. And we have our settlers there. They are going to make their way up to this tile. They should be fine. I don't think there's anything nasty out in the waters there. I think we control pretty much everything. So let's go on to the next term. So those are your options for city capture. Hopefully there will be a point in this LP where I do get to demonstrate that. So we've now got coal on the map as a a resource, a strategic resource, because we researched industrialization. Coal is used in the production of factories and ironclads. So we can upgrade some of our boats. Problem with ironclads is they're quite slow, but they are they're pretty much the first boat you can get that isn't made of wood. So they're very, very good in melee. It's a melee only unit as far as I remember. So Truro is going to go for a constabulary, because as I said, you do actually get something useful for having one of those in every country. Edinburgh is going to go for... Well, I'd like a factory, but we need more coal. Hopefully our workers are going to get onto that very soon. Let's get a Writers Guild and an Artists Guild. It does allow us a few extra places to put great works. It's always worth trying to get culture, even if you're not aiming for a cultural victory, because it's actually culture that helps you to gain social policies. And social policies really, really help with everything else. So we're going to let that continue. I'm not sure why this hex here needs to be a road, to be honest, because we've got a road coming from this side, from the city. Right, Greece stole metallurgy. Let's go and speak to Greece. I'm not going to demand that you stop spying on me. Let it slide again, because if you keep letting them steal technology and you keep forgiving them, they're more likely to become friendly with you. And I'd also like Greece to have a defensive pact with me, because they're one of the biggest civilizations on the map at the moment, besides myself, and they're my next door neighbour. So if Shaka and the Zulus does decide to attack, having the Greeks on my side would be really, really useful. So we're going to go for the Artists Guild and the Musicians Guild. We may as well get them done. But I'm going to go for the Red Fort in Edinburgh, because it gives us extra defence in the capital, which is always worth having. It gives us a great scientist point, and all defensive buildings in all cities are 25% more effective, so we'll go for the red point. Now, when it says a scientist point, if we go to our city view, and you can see we have specialist buildings. We have specialist buildings for a merchant in the bank, a merchant at the market, scientists at the school, scientists at the university, engineers at the workshop, and writers at the Writers Guild. Now, specialists are people who are basically spare civilians almost. Now, what I want to do is put this city on science focus. Now, you'll instantly see that we've now moved some specialists into those buildings because they have specialist slots. And you can see we have the production towards a great scientist, a great merchant, a great engineer. It's having specialists in these slots that increases the speed that you get these great people. So by now having these extra 3 scientists, I get an extra 9 science per turn, and I also get an extra 9 9 points per turn towards getting a great person. Well, a great scientist. So it's always worth keeping your eye on things like that. Although it's normally micromanaged, there are times when it's best to go in there and do it manually. So this means by allocating 3 extra specialists. Now, specialists use more food than normal population does. So having a lot of specialists does slow down the growth of your city. As you can see, it's 52 turns now until Edinburgh grows. Not too much of a bad thing. It's not really that big a deal. I was saying before, this hex doesn't really need to be a road because we have a road here. So when these guys are finished doing what they're doing there, I may get them to rip that bit of road up, and they'll probably just go right ahead and build it again. But it'll save 1 extra gold per turn. Doesn't seem like much, but it can be worth it. So I'm going to go on to the next turn, and then that will be the last turn of this video. Let's try and keep it to half an hour, as I said. See what's going to happen with the other cities. Well, nothing really from any of the civilizations. We're on to the city-states now. On to the barbarians. Okay. I'm going to move these guys down to here. I know they've just moved over there, but I'm going to move them down to here anyway. Hopefully they'll get there on the next term. They're just building a road up to Douglas, and it shouldn't be too difficult for them to build a road through to this city here when it gets built. So there's not really an awful lot else I can do here at the moment. This turn is very uneventful. There's not much going on at all. Just having a quick look around for coal. We do have some up here, which I can't reach at the moment. Douglas may well be able to buy tiles out that far. Oh, no, I need to buy a tile. So yeah, we can buy that tile, which is good. We've now linked the two borders up, which stops other units from other civilizations being able to cut across the middle there, unless they have open borders with us. Now means we can get that coal, so I'm sure some of the workers will pop up there at some point. I don't see an awful lot of coal around me on the map, which is quite a pain. Got some there, but obviously Greece are going to get that with the look of things. It looks like they're expanding again. They're popping up a lot of cities. I don't like it, but there's not a lot I can do about it. I should be able to trade for coal, but oh, I've got some there as well. Coal you tend to use more for factories than you do for ironclads. I very, very rarely use ironclads. I usually skip them out and go straight for frigates and destroyers, but we'll see how that works out for us. Hopefully we won't need them, because hopefully we're not going to go to war anytime soon, but at least we know we will have some coal on the map. So that's going to be it for that video. Thanks again for watching, guys. I hope you're still enjoying the series, and as always, remember, if you do have any questions, either send me a message or leave it in the comments below. I might have to go and look it up, but I do like it when you guys ask questions, because sometimes you ask a question that I don't know the answer to, and it's something that I wouldn't necessarily have thought of beforehand, like what happens if you settle a city on a hex that has a resource in it. I'm glad somebody asked that question, because it allowed me to go off and find out, and now that I know, I'm glad I do, because that's a tactic I can use in the future. It's a great way for, if you instantly need a resource and you have a free settler, dump a city on it, you instantly get that resource. Well, it takes one turn, but you don't have to wait for an upgrade to be built. So it can be a very useful tactic. Also stops somebody else from getting the resource as well. So that is definitely something I will be using in the future. So thanks again for watching, guys, and until next time, goodbye for now.